All right. Welcome, everybody. I want to say hello to you guys today. If you are out there, we have on our jazzy, little spacey kind of music in the background because we're talking about going from chaos to control. And so I want to welcome you guys out because this is a series that we created with Give It to the People in order to really try to help business owners, whether they were new business owners, existing, expanding, to really kind of hone in on some individual things that they need in order to help them sustain and grow their business. So we have a special guest because we love to make sure that we work with great people. And our special guest today, this is being partnered with EDPNC, which is Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. And the director of the Small Business Advisors is none other than Laurel Root. So, hey, Laurel.
Hello, Chisa. It's so good to be here today.
Yes, we're
We've got
cute
good
girls
things
with
to talk
glasses.
about.
Yes, two cute girls with glasses out here today.
Yes.
So we get to be a little informal, but we still want to definitely give people what they need to know about business. And what I want to do is, before we even jump into this, just give them a little bit of background about you and what EDPNC does.
Okay, EDPNC, the abbreviation is for Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, and we are the economic development arm of the state of North Carolina. We used to be at Commerce before the organization was broken out. This is our 10-year anniversary next month in October, and I've been with the partnership for 9 years now. And we're a small team who helps people with the requirements for doing business in North Carolina. So the logistics and legal requirements and things like that. And we're very passionate about what we do, and we love to share information to help people get started on the right foot.
Yes, and we have been working together for years.
Years, yes.
Specifically with my other company, Lady Business, is how we started and how we met. And we love to partner whenever we're doing our business summits because there's always something that people don't know. And when you talk about startup businesses, we now have a huge influx of people coming into the state who may have already had businesses in another state or who are thinking about starting businesses here in North Carolina. And so I think it's important to always get the best information, which is why we're doing this series. So I'm going to go ahead and pop up our presentation so you guys can see today. And we'll be on the side, just being cute girls with glasses over here, right?
Right.
We're starting a duo. But this particular workshop today, let me just tell you. So this particular series, clarity, is one of the biggest things that we wanted to bring to business owners because it's a lot of information that you can find out there, specifically if you're looking on something like Google. And now that everybody has AI, you know that AI does not always tell you the truth. And we wanted to make sure that this way, if you're thinking about starting a business, then you have the government agency that is here that knows everything and that can point you in the right direction. And so this way you don't have to be chaotic. You can actually be controlled. So I'm going to start out because this is where we want you to think about 5 things that new entrepreneurs need to know. Now, what I'd love for you guys to do while you're on is type into the chat if you do have any questions, or if you love something that we said and is a comment that you want to, just leave for us, please go ahead and do that. But this is going to be an easy way for you to say, I'm thinking about starting. So get your phone out also, because you can use the QR code to go directly to the specific resource that we're going to be talking about. So the first thing that I have, this QR code is going to take you to EDPNC's website. A lot of things are free. You don't have to pay for. It's one specific thing that I think a lot of times when people are like, I'm going to register my business. So can you talk to them just a little bit about they do not need to pay to register their business in the state of North Carolina?
They don't need to pay somebody else to do it for them. When you register, there is a fee, of course, with the state, but you can absolutely do it yourself unless you've got, a large complicated corporation with lots of partners and ins and outs, things like that. But you can absolutely register your business yourself. And we actually walk people through even the online form on the Secretary of State's website. So we can help you with those things. And no, we do not charge. Absolutely. Take advantage of the free stuff so you can save your money for other things that are important.
Now, a lot of people, this is one of the biggest questions that our business owners or aspiring business owners are going to ask. So, should I be a sole proprietor or should I be a LLC? Because LLC is the
Mhm.
thing that they hear the most. Can you explain, like, just some of the nuances why one would
Sure.
want to be a sole
Mhm.
proprietor as opposed to LLC?
Yeah. So a sole proprietorship links the business to you personally. No separation between you and the business. Basically, you are the business. That means what happens to the business happens to you. It's inexpensive. It's $26 to register at your county register of deeds office. No renewals or anything. So inexpensive. But it's kind of a, you get what you pay for. Now, if you have a business that does not carry a lot of risk or liability, it may be the right one for you. You probably still want to think about business liability insurance just to protect yourself and your property, because you know what happens to the business happens to you. LLCs, on the other hand, an LLC, limited liability company, is kind of a hybrid between a sole proprietor and a corporation. It limits the liability to the business. So the risk of the business is to the business. Something happens to the business, it's the business assets that are affected, not your personal assets. It's a little more expensive. It's $125. You register online. And LLCs do have a renewal every year in April. It's $200. And they call it an annual report. And a lot of people call us and say, well, do I need financials? What do I have to report? And you don't have to report anything. I don't know why they call it that. It really is. It, in essence, it's a renewal, and you do it online, easy to do. But it's the, you know, the big thing is that it separates things. So you know, you've got that liability protection.
Yes. And so the one other thing is they don't have to pay in order to get the name of their business. So that's what we're going to try to
Right.
transition to. Now,
Right.
that's not the same thing as you paying to get a domain name, or like you don't have to pay to get your name on social media. You have to pay for a domain name wherever you're going to host that. So like whatever your business name is .com, that's something that you have to pay for. But
Right.
that's also not the same thing as getting your name in the state of North Carolina. And
Correct.
so that's where we're going to transition, because you can start a business for less than $200. The but portion is that annual renew fee you will have to pay every year. So if you do have an LLC in the state of North Carolina, because it's not applicable in other states, some states have a fee that's less, or some fees are not even an association with other states. But in North Carolina, to keep that business going, you have to consider that that's a thing, right? And so when you go, so this particular QR code right here is going to take you directly to the Secretary of State, so that you can go ahead and you can search for your name. So can you explain maybe some of the differences? Because I always like to let people know that they're searching for a name, but what would be the difference where people are looking more of a register of deeds, right? And they're looking in their county,
Right.
opposed to this is going to take them to the state level.
Yeah. One, and I should have said, one more thing an LLC will do is protect your business name in the state of North Carolina. So all LLC and corporation names are required to be unique, which means nobody else can register the same thing. Sole proprietorship names are not protected, but they cannot use the LLC name. But you go, basically what you want to do before you go out to the website to register is go to the search screen here on the Secretary of State's website, plug in the name you're thinking about. What comes up? Does something come up? If it does, is it exactly the same? Is it very close? What's the status? Is it current and active, or is it administratively dissolved? So there are some times when you can use another name, but something to keep in mind there is what was the what do you know about that company? Do they have a good reputation, or maybe not so good? Do you want to be associated with that? Also, if you want to use a name that's similar, you have to make it different enough that it's obvious it's not the same company. So don't add the or a or one letter. It has to be obvious it's a different company.
And then trendy names, because I've
Mhm.
never been a fan of trendy names, right?
Yeah.
And so you'll see these words that don't really mean anything that then become words all of a sudden pop up, or you'll see people, naming things. So there was, just as an example from me, I was in a class that I was taking, and it was a transportation class because it was talking about trucking.
Yep.
And the lady was just like, okay, well, I'm going to name my business XYZ Trans. And I was just like, I think you should probably change your name. And she's like, why not? Now I'm listening to the instructor say, oh, no, it shouldn't be anything wrong with that. And I said, well, trans doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as it used to be. Like, you're thinking just in that industry, like trans is short for transportation, but that's not necessarily the way that things
Right.
are viewed now. So when people are reading it, they're just reading what you have. I said, now, it would be really cute and clever if you were trans and you had a transportation business. Like, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But if that's not your intention, sometimes we have to look at
Yep.
the transfer of what things used to mean and what they mean now, and then how that can be a problem, or it can be, good, depending on what it is, for your business. So what are your thoughts on like what people name their business?
Yeah. It's, it's funny. Sometimes people, they want to start a C word with a K and things like that. And that, there's nothing wrong with it, but you need to think about who's your target audience. Who's that customer that you're going for? If you're going for a younger, trendy audience, it may be absolutely perfect. If your audience is someone different, it might not appeal to them. The other thing is, if you are, a 20 something, you have this great trendy name, you're the trendy product, this is what you're doing, and all of a sudden you're 35 and you're like, yeah, I need to change my name. You can absolutely do it. There's a process to do it, an amendment. And then you have to update the IRS and everybody else. So it's a process. But you can change your name. It's not a decision to take lightly, because it affects a whole lot of stuff, not just, your Secretary of State records. It's, your website, your whole brand out there. So it's definitely something to think about, weigh. And when you're asking your friends, go outside your immediate circle, ask some other people. So I'm starting a business. I'm thinking about this name. This is what the business does. What are your thoughts when you hear that name? And get some input. And there are the small business centers that Chisa and I both work for. You can sit down and with a coach or a mentor for free and chat with them and get more input from them as well. So that's another good resource to chat with for free. So you save your money for the important stuff, like something Chisa has coming up very soon.
Look, I love that. See, she's telling you what to do already. That's good. So I think, to me, I've always looked at words and what they mean and evoking emotion. So, people come up with some really clever stuff. What would you say? Because there is always somebody who wants to use their name as the name of the business.
Yeah.
So what would you say to that?
Yeah. You can. It's not great to have an LLC, like I wouldn't be Laurel Roop LLC. I might be, Roop Fine Arts LLC, something like that. But the art I do is a little different than that, but I'm not an oil painter, but you could have your name be part of it. If you want to, Roop Transportation. So the woman who was doing the transportation company, she could have expanded the word trans to be transport or transportation. Very, that's an easy thing to do. There are different schools of thought. Some people, they're absolutely insistent they want their name in it. I think it makes it a little difficult. Laurel Roop LLC. What do I do? What's my business do? How do you know what I do? I could be anything from a daycare center to an artist to a consultant to, who knows what.
And that's a good point. Sometimes people want to make a name where what they do is inside of the name. And for us, when people say, okay, well, why did you choose Give It to the People? Because for me, I like a feeling that goes with things,
Yep.
right? And so when I say, well, what do? That's what we do. We give it to the people. And so
Exactly.
it, to me, is one of those things that is kind of transferable. So if today we're giving you this information, all of our stuff still is focused on education in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
But it could be that we're doing a luncheon or we're doing a brunch, right? But you're still going to learn something. And so, it started out as a podcast that has then turned into a business that curates conferences, but we still make sure that we educate people. And so I think that when you think of a name, to me, also take into consideration, do you feel good about it? Like, does it make you smile? Does it make you feel like I'm proud to say that this is the name of my business, even if you do have to explain it? Because when I say this, people would say all the time, well, what do you do? And I'm just like, a lot. Like, that used to be the answer, right? But this is literally what I do, is give it to the people. So it's one of those things where people like it. Now, I do want to touch on one more thing, which this is not your area, but they need to possibly seek a lawyer. And I want you to know, since we're talking about these resources, that there are law clinics throughout the state of North Carolina. So you have a bunch of them. You have NC Central, you have Chapel Hill, you have Elon, and there are still more outside of that where they can file for you if you wanted them to trademark your name. And so trademarking is not the same thing as you getting your LLC in the state of North Carolina or becoming a corporation. So is there a time frame that you feel like people should trademark if they really want to secure that name and that brand outside of the state, but make it something that's more of a global brand?
All right. So there are two different ways to trademark. You can trademark with the North Carolina Secretary of State. That protects it inside of North Carolina. It's not terribly expensive. If you're unsure, you might want to start that way. But the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, uspto.gov, who has amazing classes on how to do this and how to search and all manner of things, you definitely want to go out there and look. Is my name taken? I thought I had a brilliant name for a business, and I look out and like, yeah, no, I can't use that. Darn it. But yeah, it's absolutely it filing, hiring a patent or a trademark lawyer to do research can be expensive. You can do some of it yourself. So it might not be something you want to do the first year. It might be you want to maybe wait, get your feet under you, and yeah, this is it. This is my passion. This is definitely what I'm going to do. It's going to grow. That's when, maybe, yeah, it might be time to do that. One other thing, I'm going to circle back around though, with your name, the Give It to the People. One of the first things it does is make people like, oh, I need to go check that out. What is it? What is it? What are they giving? And so another thing your name can do is make people curious. I need to know what this company does. And, sometimes a kind of a made up name will do that. There was a company we had a call from. I had to go look them up. Turns out they're a payroll company. Who knew? But I had to go look. So I checked it out.
Yeah, and that makes a difference. And so, again, I do want to stress, you can, when you go to the law clinics,
yes,
they are free,
yep,
but you still have to pay for, if you're going to trademark it, you have to pay for that. So the thing is, they will tell you how much it costs based on which categories you're going to be in. And while we're here, guys, if there are other things that you'd like to know about, like, maybe the law clinics, feel free to type into the chat and then we'll see what we can get on upcoming episodes. But I think that that's an important thing. So that's why I said you can start a business for less than $200. But the maintenance and the upkeep of an annual basis are things you need to take into consideration. And since there is a high probability that businesses will fail within the first 1 to 3 years, trademarking at the beginning may not necessarily be the best thing for you to do if you don't know if you're going to stay in this business, if you can sustain, if this is something that you really want to do. So I'm glad you touched on that specifically. All right. So let's move on. This right here. Y'all are not ready. Y'all are not ready, but you need to get ready because BOI, and that does not mean boy. Okay. Depends on more of an Atlanta term, right? Boy. All right. So depending on where you're from, that's how you might pronounce BOI, but it's an acronym for beneficial ownership information. And this to me is one thing that everybody needs to know about if they
Yep.
don't know about it, because this is literally going to cost your business money if you don't do it. So the link is right there as far as like the QR code, but please tell them what beneficial ownership information is
Yep.
about.
It's a new federal regulation that went into place January 1st of this year, and it requires any business that registers with the Secretary of State, so LLCs, professional LLCs, corporations, all those flavors that are registered on the Secretary of State's website. You must, after you're active, you then have 90 days to go register with the U.S. Treasury. It's a fraud prevention thing. It's a free registration, does not cost if you do it. And you go out to their website, you register, you answer the questions. They're looking for the information about the actual owner of the business. So there are some, shady companies out there that have businesses owned by businesses. This requirement is getting to the ultimate who owns it. And it's a fraud prevention thing, like to prevent money laundering and all those kind of things. Now, important, you have 90 days to do this after you register your business. Mm-hmm. If you do not do this, you run the risk of a $500 per day fine from the U.S. government. You do not want that. Just go out and do the registration. Anyone who registered prior to January 1st. So for example, Chisa's business, Chisa has until the end of this year to register. However, don't wait, do it. You got other things to worry about in December. You got parties to go to and sales to arrange and special events. Do it now. Then you don't ever have to worry about it unless you move or something changes. You take a partner in, you lose a partner, something like that. Then you can go update it. And remember, it's free. It doesn't cost, but it's a requirement.
Yes. So I wanted to, while you were talking, I went to go look just so that this way we can emphasize 90 days from now is Sunday, December 22nd. Okay. On Sunday, December 22nd, you don't want to think about that. You'll be thinking about other stuff. Yep. So if you take the time now to not only register your business, if you registered, this year in 2024, and tell your friends who have businesses as well, so that they can go ahead and register. So do not be a gatekeeper on this information. Now, for businesses who were registered, again, prior to January of this year, we still need to do it as well. So as far as I know, I have one friend who has done it already. Okay. I started it and didn't finish. And this is why I'm always transparent when we do these workshops. So this today was my reminder. How about you go ahead and get it done? And the thing is, do you have a random $500 a day to be given away to the government because you didn't fill out a piece of paperwork? Per day. First of all, this number is astronomical and totally, completely ridiculous. But I do understand. I was on a webinar, with the Department of Treasury, and they were talking about why they instituted it in the first place, and why they instituted it had nothing to do with us per se, right? It had to do with a lot of foreign countries trying to launder money into the U.S.
Yep.
And that's why. Now, I love a good espionage movie or show or something like that. So I've seen it happen, like fictitiously multiple times. But this is saying you are the person that owns this business. Yep. So we don't have to, like, if you ever heard a thing like the shell companies, like they're trying to look through so many things to try to find this, and people are doing offshore companies, think in that vein, but also understand that that's why this is here. So basically, this rule is here because somebody messed it up for all of us. Which is a lot of reasons why other rules are in place. But if you are a business owner, this is one of those things that's your due diligence. And we wanted to make sure that we made an emphasis specifically for you to file. So when you go there, you'll see it says FinCEN, FINCEN. Okay, FinCEN. That's where this is going to take you directly there. So you can go ahead and you can register. And how long would you estimate it takes? Because I had one person say about 15 minutes. Somebody said like 30 minutes. I think, it just depends.
Yeah, I think it depends. I would say definitely no more than 30 minutes. If you have all the information, if it's just you, if you're a single member LLC or one person, it shouldn't take you very, very, very long because you know all the information already.
Yeah. And so therefore, please go ahead and file your BOI because we do not want you to have any problems because again, you don't want to get up Christmas morning because if you didn't, let's just say today, if you were to register your business today, you would have until December 22nd, right? So let's say you forget and it's Christmas. That is the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th. That's $1,500 right there. That's your Christmas money, right? That's your business's Christmas money. Do not forget, go ahead and do it. So hopefully that's a big takeaway for people today. All right. Thank you for that. Now, this right here is if you're starting and you're a brand new entrepreneur, the world has changed drastically since 2020. Okay. I'm sure you know. So the one thing that I want people to do is just get comfortable with online meetings. I can tell you that I have met more people online, and I mean this from a lot of different aspects, like literal one-on-one meetings, consultations. I also mean group meetings, and I mean meetings like with, like if Laurel and I are meeting, or we've had a meeting with her team and been able to talk and multiple people on there, but also take into consideration that online meetings can be used to sell your product and your service. It can be used for you to meet your clients. So what we're using today is a system that's called StreamYard. It does have a fee to it, so this is not one of those things that's free. You can scan that QR code and it'll take you to StreamYard. But I'm going to tell you why I like using this system. So you can have multiple people on, you can interview people, you can be interviewed, you can do your meetings, but what it will do for you is it will record. So I know a lot of people like to use Zoom, so this is why I'm just giving you something different. So what it will do is it will record, and you can record just video, or you can record video and audio, and they'll separate those files. So if you were the type of person who was like, well, listen, I was thinking about creating a podcast or doing some type of live streaming, this is a great way to be able to do it because now you don't have to worry about extracting audio from a video. It's automatically going to do that for you. In addition to that, if you said, okay, I want a transcript, it can help you to transcribe whatever your content is that's on here, which you'd be able to utilize again later. But one thing that I love, a lot of us are really into social media and we want to take our content and we want to do some extra stuff with it. So this meeting today is 1 hour, right? And the thing is, there are pieces of it that we may say, well, we want to make a short, or we may want to make a TikTok, or we may want to make a reel, or we just want to extract this particular portion of it. You can use StreamYard inside of its own system to go ahead and cut those pieces up for you. So now if we wanted to just talk about BOI, we could take that part out about BOI and only talk about that, right? The dog likes it. You see?
She does, yes. Zelda's very excited about it, yes.
Like, yes, right? See, that's what I'm talking about. Everybody else needs to get that level of excitement. And see, this is the things that happen when you do stuff live sometimes, right? But I want you to know that sometimes in spending money for your business, that can be the thing that is a catalyst for you to be able to grow. So you can also host webinars on here as well. So what you're looking at, the view that you're looking at it from today is a webinar. So as you can see, I'm able to present. We're able to be on the side over here on the screen. And this is what I love. You can also stream live. I can stream to LinkedIn. I can stream to Facebook. I can also stream to YouTube. So some of you are watching on YouTube and, some of you are watching because you went to my website. So another thing is I can take this and embed it in my website. So what does that do for you as a business owner? It gets people to come back to your website where once they're finished watching, they may say, well, let me just piddle around and see what else I can find. Oh, you have this going on. Oh, that's popping. Okay. All right. Well, I need to go to that event. So for me, I like to use this, even though it's something that I pay for, and I could use Zoom. But I like the flexibility that this particular system gives me. And I also like the fact that I can do other things with it. Now it's up to you to utilize all the bells and whistles that it has. But if you're talking about you want to live stream, you want to, if you use the webinar feature, you want to get people's email addresses. If you're saying, well, I want to embed it in my website because I want people to come there. If you're saying I want to stream on other platforms, then you may need a system like this. And so for instance, we were doing our live web, what's the word I'm looking for? We were doing our live stream podcast, right? We were doing it every Monday, and we would get a lot of people that would join because we specifically put it on LinkedIn. So they were already on LinkedIn. They didn't need to switch to another platform. They didn't have to go anywhere else when we were doing our live streaming. And let me throw in another thing as to why I think you might want to use a system like this. Because if you said, well, look, I want to record a webinar and I want to play it again. You could take the webinar that you've already recorded, put it into the system and run it just like it's live. So this way, you don't have to just record things one time. You can repeat that content. And what I love too is like when if you're watching from YouTube, it's already on YouTube. It gives you a countdown as to when it's going to come up. So people can then send themselves a reminder and then they can watch on that platform. But as soon as it's finished recording, it is there and I can use it and I can share it from YouTube. And it has a home on YouTube, regardless of if I'm on my system or on my website. So I want you to really get comfortable with the online meetings, but I want you to take into consideration that it means a whole lot of different things depending upon how you want to do your business. And you can use it in multiple ways from one platform and just pay that one fee, which would also be something that's tax deductible because it's a business cost. So I wanted to make sure that you have some other things, because I think a lot of times when people do webinars in general, maybe they don't give you something specific and tangible, and that's what we're about to give it to the people. So not only telling you, hey, this is the tool, but these are reasons why you may want to use it. Now I have my friend and my husband too, so both of them, I like to call them research department. They want to research every tool that's out there. They want to see if it's worth the money. And so the thing is, I have already tried a lot of different platforms online, and I found that to me, this was one of the easiest ones to be able to use. Plus, when other people are coming in like Laurel, she gets to type in her own name. She gets to type in, what her title is. And I don't have it on right now, but if I wanted to, I could kind of run things across the screen, like let's say a ticker tape. And I could also do things like, put in a link so that this way you can click on that link while we're here, but it gives you a lot of flexibility. And so I wanted you to know that even when you're hiring people, this may be another way for you to consider hiring people to be able to go ahead and interview them online, give them the link, let you see what they look like, and get that conversation started, ask them some questions, and you can share your screen just like if you were going to do, like a Zoom or something. But it gives you a lot more flexibility. So as business owners, if we're going to spend the money on certain tools and resources, we really need to understand how we can maximize them. So I want you to understand that just going into, whatever season you feel like you're going into with your business, you will have to do online meetings. And this is a good way where even if you wanted to record stuff and send it directly to people, you'll have a link to it. So this could be a training module for you. Think about other things that you can do in order to expand your business where you don't have to go so many places and you can stay home or you can stay in your office and then you can just share from an online capacity. All right. So that was one thing specifically. Now, have you used this system before, Laurel?
No, I haven't. I wanted to have a chance to talk about it. I like that. I mean, we're both over here, but we're not distracting from the presentation. And it's not an all or nothing like some other tools. I also really like that the chat is right here. So if somebody pops something in, I'm going to know it right away. I don't have to click something else. So yes. I'm kind of liking this.
That is a good point too. Yeah. Because, I've had those, if anybody's used Microsoft Teams, put a thumbs down. No, you don't have to do that. But Microsoft Teams is one of those where it's like, it's meant to do a certain function,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily always user friendly. And let's throw in another thing. So if I wanted to do this on my phone, I could do it on my phone too. I could still have my presentation up. So it's options that you can share with people. And if you had a video, it would give you the ability to just pop the video in there too. So it's very user friendly for you to kind of go back and forth with whatever whatever you want to do. So if I said, okay, well, I want to show a video in this presentation, I could just go ahead and get that video and pop it up, and it would be a very easy transition in order to do that. So I might do that before we leave, but I don't know. Let's go with what we have for right now.
Yeah.
But I
was over here typing and looking, and it looks like it does have closed captioning too.
Yes, it does.
That's nice. A nice feature to add.
Yes. So if anybody is visually impaired and they need to see the words on the screen, or auditorily impaired, that can be very helpful for them as well. And so those things do make a difference, especially if you're trying to be ADA compliant, with your business, or maybe you have clients that have a disability and that's something that they need in order to be able to access whatever it is that you're putting out. So I love that. Okay. Well, let's keep moving. Now, this one right here. Find spaces that support your business. All right. So with you doing so much, and essentially you kind of almost were there at the start, right, of EDP&C. There have been organizations that have come and that have gone, but then there's also some kind of like tried and true organizations and things throughout the state that support business. So we are going to have some slides coming up that you can just go ahead and either screenshot or take a picture of, that'll have specific resources on there. But what have you found has been maybe one of the more general things that has supported business throughout the state, that outside of your organization that you will refer people to because you know that they are definitely there, possibly with free resources or low cost resources for business owners that are just starting?
Yeah. So North Carolina is unique in having the small business centers at our community colleges all across the state. So they're sprinkled all over. There'll be one not far from you. They offer free coaching and mentoring for small businesses. They have offer online workshops, webinars, all free. So if I need help with my business plan, or I want somebody to look at my operating agreement and poke some holes in it and see what did I miss or what could I do better, or this is my draft financial plan, but I've never done one of these before and I need some eyes on it. They're awesome for that. They are awesome for that. And the free webinars, I mean, Chisa and I both teach for them. They host some of Chisa's summits. That's where I first met Chisa. I presented at a summit. It was amazing. And we've been together ever since.
I know,
doing things. Yes. So Small Business Center. And we always, my team, I mean, there's only 5 of us supporting the whole state, so we can't do everything. But that's why we partner with all these different groups. Another group's called SCORE, SCORE. SCORE is a nationwide nonprofit, and their office is in North Carolina. They're associated with the SBA, Small Business Administration. Similar services, usually, at least here in Raleigh, where I live, they meet often at the library. One thing I like about them is on their website. If you go to their training or education section, they record their webinars. So if it's the middle of the night and I've got, a brilliant idea, but I need some help with something, I can go out there and look for it, choose it, and watch it right then and there. So that's also a good resource. One of my employees, Monica, last week said that we're a great place to start when you need a referral. You're not sure about something. We're a really good place for that. But we may send you out to these people, the different state agencies, different nonprofits and organizations that can support you for free, so that you can save your money for other things that are more important to spend money for, because there are going to be things like that.
Yeah, no, and that makes a big difference. So Couple of things. When you scan this QR code, what's going to happen is this is going to take you to our wait list, because for Give It to the People, we decided probably last year, but we're implementing it this year to create a membership. And I know that when we look at business, we want more help. But sometimes, even with all of those resources that she mentioned, and I try to tell people this and say it in the most respectful way, they have jobs. Okay. Now, I want you to understand why I'm saying it that way, because Monday through Friday is their work schedule. And some will work like 6 to 8, depending on what the night is or whatever the course is or something. But they may not be accessible if it's the weekend, depending upon, what it is that they're doing. Also taking into consideration that there may be things that the other organizations don't necessarily cover that you might need. So for instance, over here in our chat, Judith suggested that maybe some things with nonprofits, also taxes and withholding, right? Now, we work very closely with NC Department of Revenue, and we work with the IRS before as well. There's another person, LaShawn mentioned the law clinics at NCCU, UNC, Elon, Wake Forest, Campbell, and Duke, right? So even though they have those law clinics work when school is in. And so they have a semester. So there's a time frame from here to here. So we're not saying don't use them, but we also need to take into consideration that if you want to move faster, you may need to get a lawyer that is already actively practicing. And we already have those resources that are available, that we work with. So what we found, and I always like to use this phrase, is that there are gaps in that system. Yep. So if you want to learn certain things, specifically, like if you're working with one of the small business centers, typically their webinars are not recorded, which means if you don't get it live, then that means you don't get to see whatever information that they were going to relay to you. Now, I am a proponent of coming into things live because I think that there's a sense of urgency that's there, and you're going to get good information. However, that's not feasible for all business owners. So as Laurel is mentioning, if you're out at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, there's not a webinar running from you from the SBC. Okay, I can guarantee that that's not happening, right? And I'm not saying that I would be running webinars at 10, 11 o'clock at night either. But I am saying that part of what we're going to offer with this membership is the ability for things to be recorded so that there's a repository of that information. So when I talk to a lot of people, my beautician, my barber, the young lady that does my makeup, all of them are like, well, look, I would love to come to your classes at the SBC that I know are free. However, I can't make it during those times because I'm working, right? So if you're working during the daytime, you might be able to come to something like this because this is your lunch, right? But it depends on what you have as far as your schedule. Do you have kids? Do you have a dog you got to get home to? Are you a caregiver? All of those things need to be taken into consideration. So what I've noticed is there's not a statewide organization that focuses on some of those nuances for business. It's just not that as a membership. So what you'll find is chambers of commerce, merchants associations, those kind of things, but they're always in each individual area. Then you go to some areas, especially rural areas, who don't have a chamber of commerce, or their chamber of commerce is really little and they're just kind of barely making it a lot of times. So when you talk about the things, in my opinion, that business owners need and those spaces that support you, it would be, how are people helping you with your marketing for people to even find out about your business? Like, that's one of the most important things. And then how is that helping you to grow where other people can see it, whether it's online or whether it's in person? And so for me, those were big factors in being able to help people because that's what they need a lot of times. And they also may need some education that extends past what the small business center is going to do, right? And then with SCORE, some SCOREs do classes, whether they're online or in person, but they're not going to be as frequent. So you have to kind of consider those things. And what I've seen, and we've been having these conversations, and Laurel knows it, you've seen a decline in in-person classes too, haven't you? Yep. So, and I'm just saying one-on-one classes, what I've seen is an uptick in cohorts where they're, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks long. But you need to get into that program. They don't want you to miss a certain amount of classes, and that works for some people. But I'm a person who I lose attention span quickly. Please just teach me the one thing that I need to know. So since COVID has happened, you guys aren't doing as many classes in person either, right?
Right. We're beginning now to venture out. I have two Spanish speakers, and we're actually doing office hours at the Guatemalan consulate now in
Oh,
Raleigh. Who even knew they were there? I learned something new.
yeah.
Um, but I'll be honest with you. It sometimes it's really hard to get out there and make yourself go out there and meet the people. Every
Mhm.
time I do it, I meet someone interesting. I learn something new, the networking, and I'm energized afterwards.
Mhm.
It's hard to push yourself sometimes. If you can do it, look for some in-person things, like some of the events that Chisa does. There may be a small fee. It's not exorbitant at all, but wow, the benefits that you get are amazing. And there will be absolutely tangible things but all of a sudden you'll realize all these intangible things that happened as well, that you realize, and like, oh, that was really helpful for me to know that.
Yeah, yeah. And it does make a difference. And so, I mean, I'm of the belief that it's a lot of stuff we can do online. And even though I just went through that whole, spiel about the online portion, we do need to be in face to face, right? We do need to be in
Mhm.
contact with each other, because some of those little nuances and conversations that we may not have had online because we only have the opportunity to type in, that's good, but it's not as good as, like, you know what, I meant to ask you XYZ, or you heard somebody say something and then you asked a question that you wouldn't have thought about except for the fact that you were in person with things. And
Mhm.
so I think that truly makes a difference. And so I can tell you that we're going to do a lot of things here where I live in Durham, and in the Triangle area, but we're also going to do stuff that is across the state because that's what's necessary. And
Yep.
we do have a focus on rural areas as well. So we'll be doing stuff that'll be out east. So when you talk about going to Wilmington area, Morehead City, on the coast and things like that, there are plenty of great businesses out there. And depending upon what you sell, you may find that there is a whole nother level of income that you could make if you went somewhere else. And I think that, to me, that's been a a good thing for us, but also not just randomly going to places, go because somebody suggested it and they knew that your target client would be in that particular area, right? They knew that this was a great event because they've been before, or somebody that can say, no, don't go to that. That's going to be a waste of your money, based on what you need. And so those things make a big difference. Now, what I know about small businesses is we want to keep things as affordable as possible. And I totally agree with that. But you have to take into consideration spending a little bit of money to get ahead,
Mhm.
right? And to get that knowledge immediately, as opposed to, okay, well, I'm not going to spend it at all and just try to Google everything. You can
Yeah.
keep Googling, but sometimes it's a waste of your time and your money.
Yes, absolutely. And that LaShawn asked a great question in the,
Mhm.
in the comments here about chaotic things. And that Googling the things, that the thing you have to remember is you follow the laws of the state where you live to do business. Not all the people sharing information out on Google are in the state of North Carolina. And even if they are, they don't know the current laws. You Google three different places and you get five answered. You ask a friend and you need to do this, but maybe yes, maybe no. So it's important to go to an expert. And yeah, there are free places, but yes, you use those for those things. So you've got the money to do the bigger important things for the events like this, the events like Chisa does, and so that you have the funds to do that.
Mhm.
You don't need to spend $2,000 to a company who is going to register your business for you and not put your name on it as an owner, which is a problem with the bank. And then tell you, oh, and now you have to go talk to the state. And they'll give you some things that you didn't need in the state of North Carolina.
Mhm.
So be careful. Save your money for the important stuff.
Mhm.
And I know there's a waiting list for the new program that she's offering. Get on the list so you can get some more information about it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to check it out.
Mhm.
Because I know her events are always beautifully curated, but they always have wonderful information.
Mhm.
So save your money for things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. All right, so I love that. Thank you for that endorsement. I didn't pay her, just FYI. She's a state employee. We don't want her to get in trouble. But let's keep going. So this is directly from Laurel's presentation, just FYI. For some reason, I do apologize. It took out this logo, so that's their logo is supposed to be there. So I'm just apologizing in advance. I don't know. I think it was a transfer once it came over from PowerPoint to Canva.
Yeah.
It did its own thing. But these are some of the resources that she was talking about. So we wanted to give you the website so that this way you could go find it. Small Business Center score, she mentioned SBTDC. But I did want you to talk about this a little bit. Can you give more reference to ncbold.com?
NCBOLD. It stands for Business and Occupational Licensing Database. So it's the database that Commerce created a few years ago that has all the 900 plus licenses in the state of North Carolina. Okay. In North Carolina, our licensing is based on occupation or profession. We do not have a general one size fits all business license like some states, which is fabulous because in some places they're really, really costly. And there are many businesses that don't require a license. However, if you are an engineer or a doctor or a massage therapist or an electrician, yeah, absolutely. There's a license and you can go do the search on the website. The way they've got it built, there's links to applications. There's links to the pages with more information. There's a contact. But if you're looking for something that you're pretty sure has a license and you're not finding it, guess whose phone number is there? Ours. And you call us and say, okay, what about this? Does this need a license? And absolutely. And sometimes there are other requirements. There are federal requirements in addition to something state, like if you use a drone, there are federal requirements as well as state. So things like that, if you use it in your business. So, but it's an awesome place to go do that initial search.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you, this is like a whammy question that I'm just throwing out there. Yeah. But, and this is why we're talking about from chaos to control. You do not have to be all over the place running around when you can get control of it because we have the resources here. If a person were looking to do business in North Carolina and they wanted to also seek or see if there were additional opportunities where maybe they had to get CEU or credit hours or something like that, is there a place for them to be able to find that? So like, just for instance, with the NC Bold, I didn't realize until I had a person come to my class that was a locksmith that told me that he needed to take, and I was just like, I mean, you know how some things you just don't think about, but that continuing education portion, is there a place like that to find the information for these people who would be licensed?
The link to the licensing board is going to be on that page on NC Bold, and it will take you to all that information for that specific board because it's different for each one. I didn't realize locksmiths would need it. But that's interesting, I guess. Yeah. But you'll need to go directly to the licensing entity, whether it's the board for that particular profession. Yes.
Okay. All right. And that's excellent. Just to know, just in case, because like I know Judith that's on here, I believe she works with a lot of farmers. So there may be some things that they need, maybe like if people are like farming hemp or something like that, there may be, certain things of that nature. And so that's why I figured that would be a good question. Okay. Now here are some more partner resources for you. So again, take a picture, do a screenshot. Out of this one that I wanted to kind of highlight quickly is the Department of Health and Human Services. So with them specifically, why would a person want to go, or what type of businesses would go there? Because I know that covers a whole lot, but if you could maybe just kind of pull out 2 or 3. And I just chose that one because out of the list, that's probably one of the more, it seems not necessarily abstract, but it's got so many things underneath it.
Yeah. So there are sort of 2 halves of health and human services. There's and the Department of Health that we think about. There's the side that takes care of our bodies And then there's the side that's the food and beverage. So any food and beverage business, if you're going to sell something that you cook yourself, there are absolutely requirements, and those are the folks that handle it. The side that takes care of us would be everything from childcare, daycare for elders, home health care, all those things. I mean, we're in vaccine season. You can find information about that out there. The website, all the state agencies have been updating websites. I find them hugely easier to navigate today than I did when I first started 9 years ago. Some of them were really clunky, but they are getting much better. Their search functions work really well. So if you're thinking this ought to be under this umbrella, use the search screen. A bunch of stuff will pop up, and some of it's, like, why did that pop up? But you can narrow in and get it. But there's a whole lot of information out there. Agriculture, similar. I love poking around the agriculture website. I always learn something new. And they're the side that helps you if you have like a home kitchen. So I want to do a home bakery. You still have to be inspected and all those things, but they're the side of folks that's who you're going to talk to instead of county health. So, and our office is who can tell you those things. So you don't have to call 18 people. You can call one and know that, okay, this is where I go.
Yep. And that's exactly because I wanted to transition to that, because a lot of businesses or a lot of people want to start food businesses, food trucks, catering.
Yep.
And, it seems like a natural occurrence for a lot of people because they've already been cooking. They're good at something. But getting to that legal side of things, that's why I wanted you to highlight those. So that's excellent. Okay. Now, funding resources. I wanted to touch on this. Now, I promise you, everybody, we will have one that's specifically on funding. But I did want to, with this particular slide, for you to touch on Operation Hope really quickly. And we have about 4 minutes or so.
Okay. Operation Hope is an organization that offers, again, free services for financial wellness, if you will. You can sit down with someone and get help. They offer workshops and series of workshops. In the Triangle area, the coordinator is someone who is with one of the larger banks, the larger commercial banks. But they're a wonderful resource. They actually reached out to us and said, hey, we're a nonprofit. Can we partner? And so, yeah, absolutely we do. Operation Hope is wonderful. Please check them out. The other thing is the CDFIs, the Community Development Financial Institution. It took me a while to get all that. They are nonprofits that offer small business loans backed by the SBA. So if you don't fit in the little box that a commercial bank requires, like maybe I don't have 2 years of experience as a business already, or, whatever of their little black and white list, I don't fit in their little box. CDFIs have a much wider reach, particularly for women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, rural businesses.
Yep.
You don't have to be in that category. But you also, you don't have to have perfect credit. They work with you. You'll get coaching along with that too. So there are absolutely funding resources out there that don't mean you have to walk into a bank in a suit.
Exactly. And in our membership, we'll be having some presentations so that this way you can get prepared for it. Now, this one we're not going to spend as much time on because we're almost out of time, but this is another one where you can take a picture. Now, I wanted to put this in here, but we're going to do a whole nother separate thing on business certification.
Good.
It's just way too much information to try to wrap up in an hour, but at least this way you can have a lead into some of those things. If you did decide that you fit into one of those particular categories that's on the screen and you do want to get certified, there is a specific program called Certify and Succeed if you're a Durham business, but you can get certified in the state, you can get certified in your county. And so all of that information, like I said, will be something that we will dive into. And so when we do these, the goal is to lead you to whatever the next next one is, and to kind of whet your appetite, but also to see what people are interested in. And possibly instead of just doing this monthly, maybe we'll do it, 2 times a month or something like that. But we wanted to make sure that, of course, the people that'll be in our membership with Give It, Get It, will be able to have access to those resources specifically, because we know that those are the things that help grow business. So you can go over there to the ncadmin.nc, and you can also go to sba.gov and check out the women's business centers throughout the state about that. All right. Now, does anybody have any questions? Because I'm about starting on time and ending on time. So we wanted to give you an hour. It's almost a whole hour. But if there are any last questions, then we definitely wanted to make sure that you would have this information. So, okay, so there was a comment that said one thing people do not realize is that they may not want to dissolve their business in their former state when starting a business in NC. They may want to come in as a foreign entity. And so that's another option.
Yep.
That sounds like something like we need to have another little workshop, right? Another from chaos to control. Yeah. So we want to give you a little bit, but still pack a lot of information into here. So if you want to contact Laurel, her phone number and the email and everything is up there. Me, then you have the website and you also have the email. So feel free to contact us. And then the last thing, or two things, give us a little rating. So today was a great day. I hope you enjoyed all the information and the content that we brought forth for you today. Scan the QR code for me. And in this way, you can answer a couple of questions so that this way we know how you felt about this particular series, about the topic that we discussed today. Please, 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 after you do this, go file that BOI if you have not, and tell a friend to tell a friend. So we'll be putting out more information and content about that coming up shortly, so that this way people do not forget. And we definitely want to make sure that everybody is aware of it as much as they can possibly be. So scan this or go to that link, and then you type in the code TALK, and then this way you can leave us some feedback. So I'm just going to see if we have any more questions. And hopefully everybody is able to scan and get that information. We have a great session comment, so that's good. And I'm going to go to the last slide, because we always want to let you know what's coming up next. And so what's coming up next month, we'll be doing the same, Chaos to Control business series, but we're going to be talking about business etiquette for entrepreneurs. And that is something that I think a lot of people need to know. Even if you are established, some people just have an etiquette issue. And we're going to be working with Nicole, who is the CEO of FlexDesk 360, which is an organization that is a co-working space in Henderson, North Carolina. So in our rural counties, and it is Black-owned, woman-owned. And so, when I said, well, what else can we do? Because co-working spaces, they need love too, right? And so we decided that would be the topic, because she said that she sees that that's an issue with a lot of business owners as to why they don't get the attention or respect that they deserve, is sometimes their etiquette is not proper. So this one's going to be a little bit different than what Laurel and I went through today, because we'll be talking more from experiences that we've had, but also to give you some good suggestions for things that you can do with your business etiquette. Now, we do have another comment that says, thank you for the presentation and information, especially ncbold.com. Always learning something new. Great to see and hear you and enjoy. Yay. All right. So that's great information. Now it's time to thank Laurel for coming out. So Laurel, I want to thank you so much, because I feel like today was just one of those days where I knew we were going to give so much information in an hour. Yes. But is there anything else you want to say?
Don't hesitate to call our team. If you have to leave a voicemail, we return your call. You can email us, we respond. One of us is assigned every day to monitor the box, and every one of the 5 of us is absolutely passionate about the work we do. So we will help support you and get you out to the other resources that you might need. And we love to hear stories about businesses and hear how you're doing, and so don't hesitate to call.
Yes. Okay. I love that. Well, thank you so much for everybody for watching. If you're watching on the replay, feel free. You can still leave comments. And if you still want to make suggestions, you can do that as well. But just make sure that you always show up and show out, and you continue to give it to the people. Bye, guys.